right? So by sort of predetermining the outcome, by giving ourselves a starting point, we open ourselves up to opportunity, right? We open ourselves up to being able to handle the dynamic situation because we have a baseline of knowledge and understanding. And that, I think, is really imperative to what we do on the ship. So here we have this resilient community. So we talked about environment. What else do we need to be creative or innovative? What do you think? Is it Emily?
Yeah,
Go for it.
I think you need people who are willing to be creative and willing to be open to possibilities.
Yeah.
Like every possibility that could happen or every situation that could happen. If you don't have people who are willing to work with you or to be a team, then you can't execute what you need to execute.
Yeah, you need that can-do attitude, right? So, how many of you remember or have recently done group work? How many people here hate group work? Maybe. What are the challenges we face doing group work? Come on, I saw some hands go up that said people didn't like it, so you must have a reason why you don't like it.
I know for me, sometimes it's not agreeing on an idea, or sometimes some people don't do as much work as other people would. So then it's hard to get that task done, or
Yes,
like you don't get the full credit because you're the one that did all the work, but it's a group project.
you hit the nail on the head with my notes. Yeah, so sometimes there's that resentment, like I'm working harder than everybody else, right? Or that person's an idiot, or oh my God, what's wrong with them, right? There's an inequity. Remember a little while ago, I was talking about that common language that we use on a ship, right? And in group work, we don't have a common buy-in. We don't have a common investment, let's say, or a common process. And one of the things that we're really good about on the ship is we bring everybody to a common process. And one of the ways we do that in particular is good leadership and management. So I would argue that a really important part of being in a creative environment and being innovative, especially in a group, is having leadership. So think about a time you've been in class, right? And the professor or teacher says, okay, break yourselves up into groups of 3 or 4. And what happens?
You go with your friends usually.
Okay, you might go with your friends. Now, so what are you making that grouping based on?
Like having fun and not really getting the work done.
Maybe, and it might be that you don't know what the ultimate goal is of that group work, right? So you immediately social union, right? We're not necessarily looking at everybody's skill strengths or weaknesses. We're just looking at the people we like to hang out with, right? Maybe not the best way to be the most innovative or creative because we create an echo chamber of our own thoughts. Does anybody here know who Mark Kelly is? Mark Kelly is a NASA astronaut. He's a graduate of the United States Merchant Marine Academy at Kings Point, where I used to teach. And he gave a brilliant commencement address talking about NASA. And he said, you know, the risk is groupthink because none of us is as dumb as all of us. And when we have a bad idea and we all come from the same vantage point, we're all going to be like, yeah, man, that's a great idea. And it's going to take somebody with a little bit of what we would say chutzpah or a little bit of, you know, nerve to go in there and be like, hey, 18 of you that are all agreeing with each other right now, that's a terrible idea. You remember the fable, The Emperor's New Clothes, right? Everybody sort of didn't want to insult or upset the emperor, and the emperor was naked until somebody was bold enough to say, Emperor, you're naked, right? So we want to make sure that the groups that we come up with to be creative and innovative all can contribute. They want that can-do attitude, but they also have to see the value in that contribution. So when we look at group work sometimes, and our goal, you know, the professor says, all right, break up into groups of 3 or 4, right? And I want you to come up with this thing. Well, if we don't analyze the pieces of the pie, if no one presents that leadership piece, then we're not always going to get the strongest group or the most collaborative environment or the most innovative environment. So I would encourage you, like if we're talking about group work, to be that leader. Because the other thing in group work that people resent, right, is everybody gets angry because there's no leadership, and then somebody finally becomes the leader, and what happens? We all resent that person, right? They're like, oh my God, they're so bossy. Why are they telling me what to do, right? But you didn't necessarily step up and do anything either. There's also, one of the things that has become really important in the way we run ships in the modern era is the value of everybody's perspective and opinion. So when most people hear that I'm a captain, immediately they're like, yes, sir, captain, we understand. You have no idea if I'm competent or qualified to do my job. You just know I have a title. And one of the things as we build a team of collaborators or innovators to work together is we want to make sure that one, everybody is heard, and two, that we value everybody's contribution to the equation. Because just like the emperor's new clothes, it might be the newest person, the person that has no preconceived notions or biases, that has the best or newest or brightest idea. So it's something to think about in those guys of creativity and innovation, especially as we work together in a group, right, is that everybody's contribution matters. So aboard a ship, we talk about something called resource management. And what are the resources we have in safely operating a ship? We have our equipment, we have our senses, right? What we see out the window, what we hear, and we have the inputs and feedback that all of the crew are giving to each other. And the process of running a ship is all about, if we have a big evolution to do, like we set all these sails and leave the dock, and we might have a pre-departure briefing, and we're gonna start with, myself or one of the senior leadership sort of laying out what our end goal is. We want to be off the dock. We want to be this in an hour. And then we might turn it over to one of the junior level crew members and say, okay, what are the environmental situations that we have? What's the risk factors that we have to mitigate, right? But it's always a good idea to maybe start with the newest voices in the room. And that's a hard thing to do if you're a grizzled old leader in the old leadership models, right? Is to recognize the value in everybody's contribution, and that some people speak quietly, some people are loud and boisterous, and to not let the loud, boisterous people, just because you're the loudest voice in the room, doesn't mean that you're the most authoritative or that you have the most knowledge to share. So if you find yourself always gravitating toward that person, right, make a point of listening to other voices in the room. But I want to again bring this back to the real focal point of creativity and innovation. So we talked about the environment, we talked about the team, right? What else do we need?
Come on, somebody take it.
Hang on, Myra, hang on. This is actually proving my point.
A goal?
Okay, we need a goal, we need a target, right? Because without a target, we're just throwing stuff up on a wall and seeing what sticks, right? So in sort of preparing for this, that I came across an interesting quote from Stefan Morrow, which is creativity is problem solving with relevance and novelty, right? If what we come up with is irrelevant or doesn't answer the problem, all we're doing is navel gazing, right? We want impact, and that's an important part. We need a target, we need a goal. It's the process of how we get there, I think, that allows the creativity and innovation. But what else? What was I doing? And just letting you think about it for a minute.
We were waiting for someone to either come up with something or let the ideas, I guess, cultivate.
Okay, just for a second, imagine we were all sitting in the same room. What would we all be feeling right now?
Awkward.
Yeah, awkward, right? Why would we be awkward?
Because nobody's really talking.
Yeah, well, what are we waiting for?
Somebody to say something.
Yeah. Does somebody have something valuable to add to this conversation?
Hmm.
Well, none of you would be in Professor Edelstein's class if you weren't brilliant intellectuals. You all have something to add, but it's about being empowered, one, with the confidence to know that you have value to contribute, and two, a comfort in the process, right? I made that process just now intentionally uncomfortable. We don't know each other. We're all coming to each other live from each other's living rooms and basements and bedrooms, right? Talk about a terrible environment with which to do that. At sea and aboard a ship, we have this concept called Shipmate. And the shipmate is more than a coworker. They could be an enemy, a friend. It's a relationship that exists in a very unique environment, but it's very much reliant upon other people. By its very nature, you can't be a shipmate to yourself, really. It involves some other person. And it's that collaborative nature of sheer survival, right? On a ship, we're going out in one of the most challenging environments there is, the sea, right? With the goal of safely getting to wherever we're trying to go. We're reliant on other people. There's a vulnerability that we share in that. And in allowing that vulnerability with those other people, we talk about things. So when we take people to sea on, let's say, a sail training trip, and it's day 5 and they're staring at the sunrise, and maybe they're a little bit sleep deprived and they're overwhelmed by these new experiences. But you know what we've done? They know what time they're getting up. They know what time they're going to sleep. They're not worrying about what to eat. They're not worrying about what they're going to wear. All of a sudden, their minds start to go to really interesting places. And especially when they're sharing that experience with someone else. You know, some of the most profound conversations I've ever had have been at sea, staring off at the horizon, standing watch with someone. And it might be 2 a.m, it might be 2 p.m, but there's something about being in that environment, right? In sharing that experience with someone and having our mind being free to experience and think in this big space. And I think that that's a really important aspect of why people return to the sea for inspiration is we're covering all the basics. How many people here know who Steve Jobs is? Most of us, right? Steve Jobs is one of the founders of Apple, and he sort of led Apple's renaissance in the early 2000s. He is the iPhone, the iPad, you know, and Steve Jobs in his early career had a flair for eccentric clothing. And at the end of his career, every day wore a black mock turtleneck, a pair of jeans, and white New Balance sneakers. Every single day. Why? How many of you, when you get dressed, when you're on campus, spend more than 3 minutes figuring out what you're going to wear for the day? A couple people, right? A few show of hands, right? Imagine if you had that time back. Imagine if you didn't have to think about it, right? Imagine if we took away all of the things that are really low value decisions and gave ourselves the space to have high value thoughts. So whether it's what we do on the ship, where within this structure, within this sort of preconceived response plans, within the normal evolutions and operations of the ship, we free ourselves up to be creative or innovative, or we wear the same thing every day, so we never have to think about our outfits. It's all sort of the same point, which is that we need to get ourselves into a place and a space where we can have those big thoughts because we're not weighed down by the minutia of detail. So my closing point, and then I'll turn it back over to Myra here. Think about that group work, right, where the professor goes, divide up amongst yourselves, and usually it takes a while. It's an easy decision. The professor could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we could all break up into groups. And we wouldn't waste time on something that's low value. We spend a lot of time wasting time on low value decisions and not giving ourselves the space to think innovatively, creatively, right? And then we just get stressed because we don't have enough time and we don't always take the time to come up with the best answer. So I think that, there's a lot of great value in going to sea because we take away so much of that. We have a goal, right? We have to get somewhere. We have a process. We know how we're going to do it. And through doing those things, we create this environment of creativity and ultimately innovation, because we then can leverage all of those experiences we have to do some pretty amazing things. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Professor Edelstein.
Captain Jackson, Captain Jonathan, I can't thank you enough. This is so wonderful. As you've been talking, I don't know if you've been noticing, but in the chat, I've been trying to capture most of what you've been saying, along with the student responses, and I really appreciate that so much. Also, we've recorded this entire event, so if anybody's so moved, you can always go back and you'll be able to watch it. I'll make that available for you.
I'm happy to hang out for a few minutes if people have questions, or otherwise it's been my pleasure, and we hope to see you aboard the ship sometime when we're all back together in Newport.
Thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. Hang with us for a few minutes. And also, to the ship's engineer, Jackson, I wanted to thank you very much. It was a wonderful tour. And I just really, really from my heart, I can't thank you folks enough. So my students, what did you think? Are you glad? First of all, let me see. I see some thumbs up already. Let me see a show of hands. Did you? How many of you enjoyed this? Yeah, this was fun. Okay, excellent. So,
Myra, can I just interject 1 second? I do want to acknowledge Jen Kendrigan, one of our staff members, who I think sort of put all the pieces together and was the liaison and facilitator. I know she's watching. Hi, Jen. But thank you so much for all your hard work in making this happen. I just showed up to talk.
No, thank you so much. And Jen, it was a pleasure to meet you and work with you. And I'm praying that this is just the beginning of what will be a long and wonderful relationship between Salve Regina University and the Oliver Hazard Perry, Rhode Island tall ship. You folks have an amazing team. Our team of people, Christina, Brian McDonald, Dan Titus. Dan Titus and I were working together at 8:30 last night. We were still on the phone with one another and WebExing just to make sure all of this would work beautifully. So it took a lot of people to pull all of this together, and I really truly can't thank all of you enough. I think I might actually get some sleep now for a day or two, because if anything is keeping me up at night, it was really worried about how well this was going to carry on. I think from my participant list, it appears that all 22 of my students are here. And for which I am very, very grateful. And I truly appreciate that. I know that all of your lives, all of our lives, are tipped upside down right now. And it is difficult, and it is crazy, and it is weird. And all of us are feeling the same thing, everybody. But you know what? The one thing I am very grateful for is that at Salve, we are an amazing community. We're here for one another. We look out for one another. I am available by text, by phone, by email. If you start feeling like you need somebody to talk to, you can always text me and say, hey, Dr. E, are you available? Can we chat? If you need help picking your courses for the fall semester, we're doing a lot of advising right now. If you need help with that, just let me know. Even if I'm not your advisor, I'm always happy and willing to for you to run ideas by me about majors, about minors, about things that you're thinking about career paths. I'm here for you guys, okay? So nothing to worry about. All right? But reach out and ask for help. Sound good? Okay, excellent. So once again, for my students, There is an assignment on Canvas. It's just a discussion, so it's not individual writing, it's discussion board writing. The assignment is posted. There's also a module of today's class that I posted in advance. So that's all available to you. You have a week to do a quick reflection on your experience today. You can talk about any aspect of it. I gave you some prompts to write about, but don't feel like you're limited to those prompts. I just wanted to give you some ideas to start with. Other than that, again, to all of you, to all of my students, to my colleagues in the room, to our friends at Oliver Hazard Perry, I seriously like have tears in my eyes. I cannot thank all of you enough. This WebEx, this remote learning, it is different. It's a little bit funky, but we're getting it and we're doing it. All right. So anything any of you need, to my colleagues, to my friends at Oliver Hazard Perry, to all my students, I'm here. So anything you need, I'm not going anywhere. I'm isolated. Call me. I'm home. Okay. All right. I love all you guys. Everybody take care. Be well. Stay safe. Keep your social distancing. And what do I unmute yourselves? Everybody unmute yourselves. Going forward. Harley, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. Going forward. Don't do anything
Stupid.
now than ever. All right. You guys take care. Oh, wait a minute.
Thank you.
Any questions? You can always, we can still be in touch. That's easy enough. All right, you guys, love you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you want to hang with me for a minute,
Wow, I've never seen it.
Jackson, if you want to hang with me for a minute.
Nice job, Myra, Captain.
Pleasure. That was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, so who do I still have on board? I got Brian, Christina. Thank you, Dan. Jackson is with us, and the captain. You guys, from the bottom of my heart, I don't even know how I could ever thank all of you. Thank you so much. Captain and Jackson, are you guys satisfied?
Yeah, it was great. That was a lot of fun. It went better than I thought it would. So
I got to tell you, you got some of the students to participate. They're very quiet. So, yeah, you did great. The tour was fantastic. I really was so hoping we could do a live tour, and man, you guys pulled it off. Amazing.
well, that's a big debt of gratitude to the IT staff at Salve. It was nothing but supportive and helpful. I actually commented to my wife yesterday. I said, "What a great team to have behind you and to facilitate this." So
we are amazingly lucky, and we are amazingly lucky. So you guys, once again, just please be safe. I always tell my students, don't do anything stupid. And now more than ever, that certainly resonates. So please just be safe. Take good care of yourselves and your families. Anytime, please be in touch with me. This is only the first. We're going to keep doing this, and we're going to get a class out on that ship.
good stuff.
We're going to do it. Okay.
Thanks so much, and hopefully there'll be some good buzz that comes out of this, and we'll go from there.
God willing. Thank you so much.
Take
you
care.
guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.